glasses in bad shape. Gotta clean my glasses off. I can't see.
Rain got you.
Oh no. Close enough. All right. Call the meeting to order. Any items from the public? Yes, sir, Mayor. How you doing today?
I don't know. How are you doing?
You always look
A little
dapper.
wet. I wanted to come today because I'm not going to be able to be around for the next two meetings and your official last meeting. And I wanted to make sure that I came by and expressed my personal gratitude and gratitude of many other people in this county, gratitude from the city of Martinsburg, especially for me, for all the work that you've done and the leadership that you had with this council over the years that you were here. I remember the first time that you and I sat down and had a conversation in your old office. Two big guys like us sitting there sharing a story and crying our eyes out. But that day brought us together. And it's a day that I'll never forget, that I hold dear to my heart, to be able to move forward in what I do in my life, to be able to work in that type of area. But again, I'd be remiss that if I didn't make it here to tell you that not only have you been a great leader, but a great friend. And I'm truly blessed to have you in my life to be able to come here, and the relationship that we've been able to build over the last year as me being mayor of the city of Martinsburg has changed the landscape. It still needs some work, but we're working on it.
It's
But it was up to it was up to us to start moving that forward, and I really believe that you've done that.
yeah.
Something that's been really dear to my heart is this recovery community stuff that you built here, and everybody else that supported it. That I could tell you on behalf of the people in recovery and people that have moved on. You just shared a story with me prior to this meeting. Those are the stories that we need to hear.
Yeah.
So again, I want to thank you for everything you've done. Thank you. And I know that this is not the end of you and I, but I wanted to give you something. I'm going to give this to you personally because it means something very much to me. I want you to hold this in your pocket every day.
Up here.
Thank you.
Mayor, you've
I didn't ask you to talk.
well, you don't
Too
know,
late.
you don't know me well enough, but I can tell you it's been an honor to have gotten to know you over the years and to become such a close friend. I couldn't ask for anybody any better to partner up with for everything that we get accomplished here in the county and everything you've done as a mayor in the city of Martinsburg, and it's Eddie and I talked a little bit a couple weeks ago about he took a trip in southern West Virginia, and it's like, and I'm gonna say this, and it's a negative statement, but it's a very positive statement too, is about how bad the southern part of the state is, and who would want to invest down there? How could you get people to move down there? And the conversation went to where the state has to make supply that bridge money to do that first square block. Give them hope. And I said, it's just like the city of Martinsburg. Look how the city of Martinsburg is flourishing, and you can't even find a storefront that's for rent right now, right? Because the city of Martinsburg, with their leadership, has given hope to people to come downtown and make that investment, right? And I want to thank you for doing that, and all of your team. But it's been fun for me. I tell you, I couldn't ask for a better 12 years. It's just the team that's here, the teams that we built. It's been nothing but fun. I don't think there's ever been a bad day for me, ever, especially on Thursdays here. Right, so thank you. Need a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. President, if there's no modifications or changes to the agenda, move we approve it for Thursday, December the 15th.
Have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Any questions on the purchase order? All right. No internal budget revision, Mr. Davis?
No, sir, I have none today.
Change in status. We have a new hire recommendation received from the Honorable Sheriff Nathan Harmon for the following as deputies. Christopher Smith with an annual salary of $52,466 effective January 1st, 2023. I guess that's Gage Clerk with a annual salary of $52,466 effective January 1st, 2023. All right. Thaddeus Wright with an annual salary of $54,187 effective January 15th, 2023. Letter of resignation received from the Day Report Center for Danielle Simmons effective January 31st, 2023. Any questions?
I just got a statement on that, Mr. President. I don't know. It's probably been over a year ago back. I saw on the news that a starting deputies or police officer salary in the city of New York is about $8,000 to $9,000 less than what we're paying.
Really?
If I read that right, and if I saw that right on the news.
I think I've seen that once before. I knew he was very competitive, I thought.
Starting off the poverty level of New York.
I think I saw it where it was like $46,000 to $47,000.
That's why they all live in Jersey.
Yeah.
The caliber of applicants that the sheriff's department's getting now is much better than it has in the past. In fact, Mr. Wright, you'll see that he's being brought in at 54 and change. He's already a certified law enforcement officer. He's coming to us from Oregon.
Okay.
So,
Does this bring back up to 66?
no, he'll still be 2 vacancies
Oh, really?
there.
Well, when the deputy resigns, where do they go? To another jurisdiction or private security? Or
Most of the deputies that we're losing now are going into the private sector, federal government, and then we have some that are just retiring.
yeah.
We don't have near the turnover that we had
Well, no.
10
Salaries
years
are.
ago.
Salaries is up, leadership has
Yeah.
changed,
The leadership, I think.
morale has changed.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to digress. I just thought that was
They're working hard.
something
No,
to point out.
That's illuminating.
The good news is we're getting a better caliber employee. It's also good news that the sheriff is investing in the employees. If you'll recall, previous sheriffs had cut off pretty much all the training. So now this sheriff is in the process of getting all that training caught up, as well as the training that's available through the grants. The bad news is, as our employees get better qualified, they certainly become more attractive to other agencies, particularly the federal government. The federal government looks at some of our law enforcement officers and they just,
We have the best training ground.
yes, they do.
We do.
And we can't compete with the feds. But we're not losing deputies to the Loudoun counties anymore. That seems to have.
We're actually bringing them back for
Bring
Loudoun
them back,
County.
yes, sir.
And that's really nice because there's a big benefit for them to be home on doing that. They don't have to leave their cruiser and right at the Virginia line and all that other stuff right at that gas station. I know there's a lot of cruisers parked there.
I would believe that they truly wanted to serve Berkeley County.
Their community.
That's where they
Right.
grew up.
I had the pleasure of taking a couple minutes and talking to Captain Hall on Tuesday, and we was both very appreciative of each other in both agencies. They were very appreciative of what the county council's been able to do for the sheriff's department over the several years, and I fully expressed how happy we are with them. And his statement was, we've came a long ways.
The reactions from the city of Martinsburg and other jurisdictions realizing that,
We're setting a standard.
yeah, our people are better paid. It's like
Catch
the
up.
effect is spreading out and,
Yeah.
to other jurisdictions.
And we're not like like I told Captain, the biggest difference that we're not trying to get in a battle with the city of Martinsburg or the county and the other close jurisdictions of trying to keep being the highest paid. But so it's been what, 4 years ago, Mr. Davis, that the Sheriff's Association came to us and said that, look, we understand you can't compete with Loudoun County. We understand that you don't want to compete with Jefferson County or can't because of the way they were doing having the gambling casino at the time. But all we want to do is be competitive with the local jurisdiction, the city of Martinsburg. Right? Just get us there. And I said, and that's when we really made that, we rounded that curve, right? We was able to say, okay, you're not asking, and the same meeting, the sheriff at that time said, well, if you're worried about what they were asking, I was going to ask 3 times more. Well, there's why we can't get anywhere, you know. So, but when they said, look, and they came down to reason and understood that, then hey, we can make that happen, and we have.
And this council has been good to their promise and commitment. To
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it spreads, 911 operators,
Yeah.
Same firefighters, all those similar job positions.
Well,
We're doing good in.
Ambulance Authority's got 12 graduates, in January. And I think they'll have 12 paramedics and at one class next year. And so, which is unheard of. So a lot of good things.
Yes, sir.
All right. Everyone was present for the minutes of December 1st, 2022. Anybody have any changes or corrections on those? Moving on to our calendars. I'm sorry. All right. We'll be here next Thursday on the 22nd and plan on being here on the 29th. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then on boards and commissions, nothing going on tonight or tomorrow night. Monday the 19th, 4 p.m. Eastern Panhandle Transit Authority, 4 p.m. Health Board, 5:30 Main Street Martinsburg, 6 p.m. Planning Commission. Tuesday the 20th, 9 a.m. WRNR. It doesn't say who's going to be on R&R. Anybody know? Okay. 11:30 a.m. Parks and Rec, 5 p.m. Sewer District, 6 p.m. Stormwater. Wednesday the 21st, 6 p.m. Solid Waste, and Thursday 5 p.m. Library Board.
I do have a special Zoom meeting for Airport Authority on that, the 20th.
Okay. All right.
The 20th.
And the health board meeting will be a Zoom meeting, and it's solely for the purpose of hiring a audit
Firm.
firm.
And Tracy, if nobody has any plans on Tuesday the 20th on R&R, I'll take it. All right.
You might want to mention that the assessor's office and the sheriff's tax office will be closed tomorrow from 12 to 2.
Okay. We'll take your advisement on that one. Or you want me to
We
repeat
can probably
it?
get it straight from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, yeah.
Please, I say that so I was probably
All right. Any other changes or corrections on boards and commissions? Need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
A motion been made. Second. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Mr. Hess, good morning. You have a little bit of activity for us, not a whole lot. And you can make your own statement that you're going to be closed tomorrow.
Yeah, we will be closed tomorrow. We were gonna do it today, but, with the ice, we just can't.
Right. From the hours of what?
12 to 2,
Okay.
and anybody on the council wants to come over.
Okay. All right.
We're gonna have a meeting between 12 and 1, so anybody wants to come home and get a plate of food at 1 o'clock if you're here.
Sounds
got
good.
100 pieces of chicken. You got trays of food. It's like a buffet.
Well, thank you.
Come on. Yeah, we just got 2 this week, really. Personal property exonerations. And one of them's for $169.50 for incorrectly priced Toyota, and the other one's for supplemental bill made incorrectly. But total of them 2 come up to $187.82.
I'm afraid that's going to break the bank. That's
It'll be close.
yeah. All right, entertain a motion on the.
Mr. President, I'm going to defer making the motion to Mr. H.D. Boyd when he made his first motion.
Could have gave you a heads up, couldn't he?
Right.
Huh?
Welcome to my world, HD.
So, making a motion to approve change order to
The exonerated
Yeah,
personal
exoneration.
property
exoneration of personal property
in the amount of
in the amount of
8782.
$187.82.
All right. Yeah, give him a little bit of notice next time, Jim.
Nah, I was going to
Put it on.
surprise it.
All right,
Dump it on it. You know?
We have a motion on the floor from Councilperson Boyd. Do we have a second?
Second.
Oh, you made the second. I've had so much fun. I didn't even hear you. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Didn't hurt a bit, did it?
No, it wasn't too bad, except I couldn't find the spot.
All right, board and meeting reports.
Still learning this thing.
Councilperson Boyd. Any activity that you on any boards and commissions last week? Or you want to tell us about anything that may happen that was fine?
Well, last night's Roundhouse board meeting, they did do election of officers, and last week Mr. Umstead was appointed to the board, and last night he was voted as the new chairman.
That's great. Matt
Takes over as the chairman. Mike Height stays as the vice chair. The secretary is now the new city appointee in this. I don't have this written down. Call me again. I got in late last night.
Yeah.
But I didn't make the meeting, but I got caught up on it today.
Okay.
And the new young lady that was just appointed by the mayor, she is the new treasurer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
And I think she's going to be a big asset to that board.
That's good.
She had attended one meeting before she was appointed, and she was really engaged. And here yesterday, she had a lot of big suggestions on advertisement and different things that could be done there. So I'm looking forward to her help there, and I think Matt will do well as well. He's really big on history and things.
He's very passionate about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think that board is moving in the right direction. We're pretty close to. We had a call-in meeting last Thursday actually, and with the Department of Highways, and we established there's nothing more to do other than wait for the feds to come back with the okay for us to go to bid for that elevator steps and concrete floor project over there, finish the bridge shop, and we're still working to try to utilize the money the city gave us for the HVAC. We had run into a problem shortly after getting that approved. The company that had agreed to do the work then couldn't do the work, and we had to go back out and try to find someone else. And then we came up a little short with the money, but now we found that Rumsey could do some of what we came up short on, which is electrical. So we're trying to put all those parts together to get the electrical upgraded, to get the HVAC put in the upstairs and downstairs of that building. And, so we're pretty close to having a fully operational building there.
Good.
If these bids come back pretty good.
Question on the concrete floor. That's over in the
Bridge shop
Bridge shop.
downstairs.
Could there? I'd ask Doug this. Could there be a like an addendum put in that bidding process for stamped concrete, or we're trying to for decorative more so than industrial look?
You talked.
We talked a little bit about trying to put radiate heat in that floor.
Right.
and they said it would really drag things out because it's federal grant money. Now, if something would happen, I have those grants and steps again, like I did last time, to where if there's not enough money, the concrete floor is last. So if we end up not having enough money, that'll only cover the steps in the elevator and finishing the last of the fires. Suppression stuff. I mean, the suppression system's in there, but it needs new poles and it needs some strobes and things. But if we don't have enough for the concrete floors, then that goes by the wayside, and then we could look for other options, and then we could do whatever we wanted to do with the concrete floor.
I tell you what, man, the only way to heat that efficiently and evenly is radiant heat floors. I mean, it's just so nice.
How big is that room? 120 by 100 or something?
Yeah, it's about a little under 11,000 square feet each floor.
Yeah, and it's just because it's going to be so hard to heat.
Even
Control, yeah, because of all that cold air coming in that big glass and stuff, and I don't think that glass is even insulated. But
No. Well, they say the roof is semi-insulated.
okay,
They did some kind of insulation on the roof when they did the roofs back when Kim Martin was there. He did tell us there's some sort of insulation between that
the decking.
the decorative imitation slate
Yep.
roof and the
probably some sips.
Yep. All right. Anything else?
no, that's about it there.
Okay, Councilperson Barnhart.
All right, I had a public service water district meeting. I was unable to attend because I was dumping Linda off at the airport.
Dumping her off.
Yes, sir.
Well, let me
I-
call Linda.
I even slowed down to shove her out. There you go, baby.
Doesn't know where she ended up. She dropped her
Well, I
off.
heard she ended up in Abilene, Texas. But on the agenda,
You just hope she's not streaming
Yeah.
this, don't you?
they paid the contractor $202,000 and change for the Bunker Hill Water Plant, and then they paid him again $156,000 for the Bunker Hill Water Plant, and then they approved Snyder Environmental for upgrades to the woods, $175,000. So they're making progress in those items. And then, of course, I attended the luncheon for Project Kent at the Holiday Inn. Saw some old friends and talked to some people, and it was a good time and educational,
Good.
as you know, because you were there.
All right, Councilperson Whitaker.
Had no meetings, but I also attended that luncheon, and it was very informative as well as meeting the whole crew that's coming in. That is going to be a high-tech facility for this area and good paying jobs.
Yeah, it's a very nice plan.
Yes. Yeah. Can't wait to see it firsthand.
Not your mother's steel mill.
Yes, it will not billow the smoke, from what I understand.
No. All right, Councilperson Goodman.
Yes, sir. On Tuesday, Gary, myself, and David Kramer met with All Points Communication, Comcast, and Frontier as the broadband interview. And I think that recommendation will be coming probably next week for a carrier on the west side of the valley. And also, had the great opportunity to attend the CMC luncheon. Yesterday had a development authority meeting where there were probably another 10 projects in the works, in motion, either through contract extensions or whatever going on. There's still a good bit going on. Mostly as an educational opportunity for myself. I've been attending the building commission meetings, and I had the opportunity yesterday to attend the closing on the bonds for the building commission. And afterwards, Alan and I met with CDC on the Route 9 trail and the Inwood Park. So
How's the trail coming along?
I thought really well. In fact, I have a form for you to sign. The biggest hurdle had been CSX, and they agreed to.
Paul crossing that track out there on
Yes, sir.
Grapevine.
So I have a form for you to sign.
Good.
saying that.
Good.
But other than that, they said the Department of Highways have been particularly
Well,
easy to work with. Said they've really been.
great. Good. Now, I guess the Department of Transportation still owns that old road going across the quarry there?
I would imagine.
That old bridge there.
Yeah, it's one that when we was kids, it was one lane, and you had to look
Oh,
over
yeah.
it. You know, you kind of, some of them would go like this, some of them would go like that.
Yeah, if you're sitting in the middle, you couldn't see.
Oh, no, you want to make sure you got across. I mean, it was
It's the only way you could have gotten to skate land at the time.
That's right.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now
So,
we're aging ourselves, aren't we?
Yeah. All right.
HD wouldn't know what that would be.
I was there.
Okay. But not over that bridge.
No,
No, okay.
but I attend the skate land on the regular basis.
CEC will be coming before the council on January the 19th.
So when would that be? When are you thinking that's going to be ready to bid? Because the city of Martinsburg's already awarded
I
their
think
bid, right?
it's not far out.
I'm pretty sure the city of Martinsburg's already
they had a
awarded.
little bit wider timeline. Are you talking about on Route 9? Is that what
Yeah.
you were? Yeah. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I don't think it's, I'm like Alan, I don't think it's that far out. The timeline for the park, they stretched out a little bit, but we were able to tighten it back up some.
Okay. All right. I had Ambulance Authority on Wednesday night. Wait a second now. Might have. Never mind. That was a week before. Guess I already gave that. But one thing it is that they do have, I think, as many as 4 ambulances on order, and they're
It's
hoping
gotta
to
be
get
$1
them.
million.
Oh yeah, easy. And hoping to get them here real soon. They keep telling them that it's going to be here soon. It's going to be here soon. It's going to be here soon. And then on I'm going to touch base on the fire too. Last week is Hedgesville is waiting to get their ladder truck that they purchased themselves. It's a used ladder truck, and it should be coming in here real soon. There's also
Has the insurance and the maintenance of that thing been established?
Yes.
Wasn't it the fire board that was supposed to
yes, sir.
take that bill up?
Yes, sir. And then Back Creek Valley is just found out that their truck is getting ready to go on production, and so hopefully that they'll have that before long too. I think that's a tanker back here. Maybe.
Yes.
I think there was 3 changes in chiefs. So big change there. In the volunteer fire departments. Mr. Davis had just showed me a letter this morning that Hedgesville has requested 24/7 firefighters.
Really?
So you have 3 fire stations that is asking for South Berkeley, Hedgesville, and Back Creek.
Did Hedgesville get a new chief too? Also,
They did.
Is
Yeah.
that because of that, or?
Could be. Could very well be. But where I stand on that is we had a discussion with them when we changed that fire fee that they would need to charge the next time and finding revenue to do that, because truly in order to do that, I feel by the time you get the support staff and everything else, you're going to be pushing anywhere from $6 to $8 million. And they have to help, and they haven't came forward and said that they will help yet. So, but progress, they see the value for it, and that's for sure. As I talked, we had the luncheon with CMC on Tuesday. Very nicely done. Mary Green done a very nice job, and the biggest thing that we're excited about is you're taking a brownfield piece of property and you're putting a very, very clean micro mill on it. And when I say clean, correct me if I'm wrong, 2/3 of the less electricity than what a conventional mill would use, 82% less carbon emissions, And all the scraps, their rebar would be made from scrap steel, which is going to be shredded from in another area and brought in by rail or truck. Noise pollution is very minimal. When we was out there, we didn't even have to wear earplugs so we were on. So it's if you can imagine, it's almost like an extrusion machine. It just comes out and just goes through, and then it gets extruded, and it's constantly just red hot. And then the neat thing now is that they coil it.
Yeah.
Put in big, I forget how many tons each coil is, and that's what goes sent out to a fab shop, and then they straighten it and bend it the way you want it. Big coils. It's like the wire, tie wire.
I was impressed. We won't make it here, but the number one manufacturer of T-posts.
T-posts.
Right.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, okay, didn't know that.
I was going to ask Billy, or tell Billy, I know why there's white paint on the top of a T-post.
Wow.
It tells you not to bring that driver any higher than that because it's going to crack the top of your head.
Would you like to see my picture?
Been there.
Yeah, you hit the top of the post and then it comes back and hits you in the head.
Especially when you're putting up campaign signs.
Yeah, I started looking around where Jackie was. Yeah, that's exactly when it happened. And then, as Eddie talked, the building commission closed on a $10 million bond for us yesterday, and very proud to say that we closed that bond in today's market at 4.03%.
Yes, sir.
And where right now, if you to borrow money on a mortgage, it's 7, which may went to 7.5 yesterday. They're looking about raising another 0.5%, which I have to say that our federal government is crazy in a bad way, business people. They certainly know how to collect the tax and make us feel like we're trying to get ahead, but
Yeah, it's
they,
going to impact the building trades.
it's
It
just,
hasn't already.
well, not just building it. I mean, the last recession affected everybody.
Yeah.
Building, insurance agents, lawyers, tourists, everything. And now this time you got high rates, you got high prices, inflation at a record high, you've got fuel prices where they are. It's just a complete disaster coming. But anyway, that statement's made for Norwood, by the way. I had him fired up yesterday. I think that's all I got to report on. Board and commission vacancies, any activity there?
That's about, I see where we have 2 applicants for the library board, if we can make those arrangements to bring them in.
Okay.
And also one for the criminal justice court.
Right.
Schedule all 3 of those.
Anything else on that? All right. We have Mr. Wine, Deputy County Administrator, Emergency Vehicle Purchase. Is this supposed to read emergency vehicle purchase?
Did it? No, they're not necessarily emergencies.
All right.
But let's talk about supply chain and how it affects this little leg of the government.
You're going to pick up off where I left off?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, they're taking real good care of us. So
Right.
all of you know that you have made a concerted effort to update your fleet from emergency vehicles to non-emergency vehicles. And you've worked very hard, and you've spent how much money, Alan, over the last 5 years?
$5 million, ain't it? Over $5 million.
Yeah, close to $5 million.
I mean, we planned on financing $5 million, but we bought some out of
have.
cash too.
You have, and you have some on order.
The phase 1 financing will be paid off in March, but then we had that big
The big one
purchase
was the second.
where we did 33 cruisers.
33 cruisers there, Sheriff.
You know, so where we've gotten right now with everything in the economy, post-COVID, it was difficult pre-COVID. It has been near to impossible post-COVID. There have been many instances, one in particular where we ordered vehicles. You cut a PO, your purchasing person did a great job in calling, placing the order, getting it all worked out, and 2 days later, they called back and said, sorry, you can't have them, they're gone. GM opens their, we'll talk emergency vehicles here, they opened their line for emergency pickups and they shut orders the next day. What's going on is the upfitters, the big players in the market, are speaking because they can move so quickly. They don't have processes and procedures where they have to bid and wait and all this stuff. So you get these big emergency upfitting companies buying tens of thousands of cars, trucks, whatever it may be, and then they sell them as a package. So what we do for you at purchase price plus 15,000, they do for purchase price plus 30,000. So the model that you have designed, where you buy the
You're
outfit,
saying purchase price plus 15, you mean 15 being the outfit?
upfitting.
You want to make sure people know that we're
Right.
not paying $15,000 above price.
No, sir. So, I mean, you go to open market and you buy competitively a car, a truck, whatever it may be. Then you bring it in, and then your team outfits that car internally at 750 Baltimore Street, where you're going to go and see today, fractionally of what you used to do when you would buy it, send it to an upfitter, and then they would send it back.
And very nicely done.
You'd have to ask our customers if we do a good job. I wouldn't dare speak.
I haven't
for
heard
them.
no complaints.
Right.
I've heard about winning some awards and stuff.
That was pretty cool, right? So where we are today is we struggle with purchasing, and it's unbelievable. We have 7 Trailblazers on order that have been on order for 14 months. Tracy just talked to them yesterday. We don't know where they're at. And they said we'd have them last month, and we still don't have 13 months. Now, we're in a position right now where we have very, very, very few here drive this now. I mean, it's that tight. On the emergency side, the sheriff has done a great job educating and training the emergency folks so we don't see as many accidents as we did before. But we have a 2019 Durango at Baltimore Street that is totaled, will be issued total here very, very soon, and we can't buy anything for that. So I asked Anthony and Jeff, were there any opportunities for the council to make purchases exceeding the $15,000 mark, which you're bound by state law, anything over and above 15,000 to advertise and bid and go through all this? Because I've spoken to several people, and my mistake, I spoke to a couple of municipalities, their charters let them do it. They can pass something and say, okay, we're not bidding, we're going to do this. It makes it easy on the cities. You don't have that luxury. You can't do that. There's an attorney general opinion that does allow you, first and foremost, state code says for emergency reasons, you could declare and not bid. It doesn't define that. So the attorney general issued opinion, it's an old opinion, 1966, and discusses that and talks about shortages, labor strikes, and things like that. In my opinion, you are there. We're not asking to circumvent your authority to bless the purchase, if you will. What we're asking is if you could declare this and put us in that situation. We're going to need a car probably in the next 2 weeks when they declare this Durango open. We can bid it, we can advertise, and we can place the order. It could very well be a year and a half before we get it. But it adds up. You know, we aren't proposing a big order of 30, but if we could address these issues where we need one here, one there until the market rights itself, it will make it a whole lot easier keeping outfitted and having what we need. And it would be a one by one, here's where we're at, here's the price we can buy these for. And it would also let us buy in the used market. There are lots of really good used cars that you can, trucks that you can buy probably at a good price because our money's good and not have to wait if a brand new one doesn't sit there. Some of our applications are very low miles. I mean, for the IT department, we bought a small Transit in 2012 that had 75,000 miles on it. It's got 102 on it. It's running fine every day, and we pay probably half of what market would be for that today. So it's not applicable in every situation, but right now it would help us immensely.
And we would get prices, we would identify the need, get prices, and then come to the council and say, this is what we're going to do. So you're not giving us a
Blank check.
blank check to do it. The other situation is, and Jay mentioned,
Can we just not add criteria to that? I mean, because, I mean, a lot of times when you see a vehicle and it's darn good buy, you're not going to have a week to make a decision.
I mean, I personally carry a P card. I mean, if that were the case, I could give them a $10,000 deposit or $1,000 deposit and hold it.
Okay.
But we can't. We would not want the ability to do anything unless this board exercised this process.
That particular purchase.
But
Each.
if I got that, and let's just, and there is a particular one that I know right now that would make a particular person on staff very happy if they landed it. I won't make any mention to the person with the star on his chest, but it's a really, really, really good deal. But if I went down and said we want to buy that, and I say to a salesperson, hey, we want this, but I can't come back until next Thursday. Well, Mr. Whitaker walks in behind me with cash. So much for that vehicle.
Exactly.
Doubtful, but yeah,
Under-
thank you for the
And
comment.
it would be cash with him.
Right.
Yeah.
But there is opportunity to secure, at least put a refundable deposit, if you will.
Right.
There's a way to make it work. But to Alan's point, we aren't asking to go outside of normal purchasing processes and that stuff.
We don't want that.
No.
We
No,
don't
sir.
want that. The other, Gary talked about the bidding process. We just recently went through the bidding process for a very generic white
did.
vehicle.
We did.
We had
Two.
two bids. We awarded it to the low bid, notified them actually the week before we brought it in because we wanted it secured.
Right.
Told them that it was coming to the council, that we wanted to go on and get it ordered, we wanted to get it ready to go. You awarded the bid, we did the purchase order, Tracy, we had notified them, was it 2 or 3 days afterwards, they called and said, oh, just kidding. The factory had notified us that the price of your vehicle is just now going up $1,500, and if you want it, that's what you're gonna pay. Well,
Don't work that way.
so of course, we had to get legal involved and say, this is what the RFP said, this is what we expect. But the landscape for buying vehicles has changed.
Is it an improvement at all?
No. So my very first step was to reach out to the state contract holder. And I talked to two, and both of them said, we have no idea when we will get in.
I would thought we've got to be getting better by now.
Well, I mean, I think inventory is adjusting, but older contracts for that particular kind of inventory,
So backed up.
it is. But remember, when I mention national upfitters, I'm talking about conglomerates that buy 300, 500, 1,000 cars at a time, and when they're only making, let's just say 10,000 Interceptors that calendar year, I'm making that number up, and there are those many outfitters around the nation, little customers like us that want 5. The industry's forcing us to an upfitter. They're forcing us to spend twice of what the upfitting costs are. The purchase price of the vehicle may very well be the same to what you could purchase, but they're forcing you into an upfitter's hand, which is unfortunate because we do a very good job right here. We're getting ready to do 3 for Morgan County.
You know the crazy thing about it is, that's the whole purpose of state contract. The state of West Virginia should say, okay, we don't need 5, we need 500 of them, right? But it's crazy that you guys are doing a better job at purchasing vehicles at 5 at a time than what the state doing at 500 of them at a time.
That's Alan and Tracy, and they do a good job. And I meant to say in the
Tracy?
beginning,
Oh,
right? I meant to say in the very beginning, this body has become extremely transparent in its spending processes. But that man right there mandates that everything hits the streets for competitive. So you do a really good job. So this wasn't an easy ask. I sat down and asked Alan, and I expected him to say, no, forget about it. But I mean, it is hurting our business model. It is slowing us down. And it is putting us in a situation where we can't deliver. So,
And we've tried to keep, as the agreement between the council and the sheriff was when we decided to do this major upgrade to the fleet, that as we put one new cruiser into service, we take one off the street. It would be 1 for 1. Because if you remember, not with this sheriff, but previous sheriffs, at one time we were carrying 2 vehicles
For
for
every-
every deputy.
Yeah,
We had a summer vehicle and we had a winter vehicle.
Right.
And we were paying insurance and maintenance on all those
about
vehicles.
$1,000 a piece almost.
So we have changed that, and as Gary in the central garage takes.
And that sheriff had made the change at the end. so
He did.
Want to make sure he gave
But
credit.
it was through some encouragement from this body.
Sure.
As we've been taking vehicles off the street, rather than sell them for surplus, knowing how difficult it is to get replacement vehicles when we have a vehicle that's been totaled. You've been keeping 5 in reserves, hopefully.
We have 4.
4 in
There's some
reserve.
out in front of 750
Well,
Balmer Street now. What's
And
those?
I'll explain it to you. So I'm waiting on Matt Rappan, who is the sheriff's quartermaster who handles the vehicle stuff over there for us. So we had, as you know, it's 1 for 1, and we've sold over $100,000 worth of vehicles that 5 years ago might have brought 15,000. I mean, you have
Total.
right. $100,000 worth of equipment that Alan keeps track of and puts back into your capital investment account. So they're offsetting purchases, right?
We put that right back in the capital vehicle account,
So that we can purchase them
so that we
with
can pay
cash.
cash rather than go to financing.
So what we did, I first met with Alan, then I met with the sheriff's team and said, I can identify 4 2015 Tarses that are semi-outfitted, because this 1 for 1 trade, we took the good equipment and moved it to the new purchased equipment. But we had 4 Tarses that are high miles. When I say high, 100, 115. You wouldn't want them on the road every day. But what we did is we took them, we invested in equipment to get them back worthy to what they need, because they are out of they don't even have shift spares anymore. They're tight. Every vehicle they're driving, they have nothing. So what they have is when they leave a car for service with us, they have a coworker take them home. So they don't have a vehicle now. So in Matt Rappan's inbox is a policy that says we have 4 fully outfitted Tarses at Baltimore Street parked.
I seen them.
Car with the space, so they can pull right in, transfer their material for their job, go inside, card access, take a key, get in the Tarse, it's fully fueled, it's clean, it's ready to go, and they can do their job or go home, whatever it is. We finish service, they drop it back off and take their car. So they are not for the sheriff, and we didn't release anything.
Oh,
We
so
didn't-
those are rotation vehicles.
Those are rotation vehicles.
While they're under repair.
That's right. So
Cool.
they weren't given back to the sheriff to put in inventory per the promise of this project. So they're not for use for them every day, but it's in and out. And I think it's going to speed up the service process, and it will keep deputies on the road, because I had one the other day and the deputy was irritated with me. Well, it had a rear tail light crack busted out of it in an accident the night before. And his statement was, well, I'm sitting here, I can't do my job, I don't have a vehicle. Well, hold on, I'm trying to get the light for you now. I actually personally drove to Chambersburg and got it, put it in and got it, but that's how tight they are. They don't have anything to drive. So I think if the council sees fit, if you can exercise this process, it will at least give us an opportunity there are no interceptor vehicles to buy. And what the sheriff has agreed to, and those people on his team that don't necessarily need interceptors, he can put them into an outfitted non-interceptor vehicle and get the interceptors back out on the road.
And you said the interceptors basically are heavier rotors and brakes and.
All they are, alternator.
and
It's all they are.
heavier- Yeah.
And they're obviously the pleather back seats, if you will, right? They don't have cloth. If you've ever tried to buy a passenger vehicle with what I call pleather, the plastic rear seats, they don't make them anymore. Just like you can't buy a vehicle without power windows and air conditioning. So that's what you get into. And we have that. If you'll remember, you bought,
So basically, it would be more expensive to buy a street vehicle and adapt it to a interceptor.
it would if you upgraded the brakes and some of the stuff, but not by much. Not by much.
Under the situation we're in now, is that an option?
With the 5 vehicles that are on order, you don't really need any bulk orders. It's one by one. It's like when one's wrecked or when. So I would see our next bulk order not this coming fiscal, but the next fiscal, because we'll be pushing the last of the 15s out. So I don't see the market may right itself by then, Doug. I don't know for sure. But I think for this, if we were to need to purchase, it would be on a non-interceptor scenario.
And I know you well enough, I know what the answer is going to be, or I anticipate the answer. So if it's taking us 18 months to get a vehicle, are we anticipating that we need enough vehicles ordered today that's going to get us through this 18 months and maybe another 12 months after that?
Yes.
So we're ordering, if we need 5, we're ordering 10.
We order, yes. So when we order, it's not to replace what we have, it's to replace what we know we're going to need, like almost 2.25 years out. Yes,
So
because
we're placing that order.
we are. We
Okay.
did. But
And that's not, we just placed the order, there's no money up front or anything like
no,
that.
no, it's Tracy's job to watch it and ask them. And with the fleet interceptor line, we place an order with a vendor that gets the bid. They go right to the manufacturer and get in line. Then we sit and wait.
So
And
in
the
the,
problem is, even with the non-police vehicles, if you remember, we go out for bid, we may get 4 or 5 or 6 bids.
can't get them
We
now.
got, last time we went out for a non-police
Have it in stock.
vehicle, we got 2.
And one of those didn't meet specs.
Right.
They didn't meet specs because it said, we'll order it as soon as they just got in line thinking no one else would have something in stock. Now, you can drive around any car lot local and there's a lot of stuff on the lot, a lot, right? But they don't seem to have the palate to want to submit to this process because, as we said earlier, they're committing that vehicle for the better part of a minimum. I mean, they have to respond by Wednesday. You meet the following Thursday, and there's no guarantee. And then we have to review it. That's the following Thursday. So it's 2 weeks they've committed that vehicle. They can't sell it because they said, okay, we've got this for you, right? And then there's no guarantee. This body says yes in 2 weeks. So it's a weird scenario to try and buy local. And I don't know why the market changed. We used to get a lot of responses, as Alan said, but we're not. We're not.
Henry Ford would not be happy right now.
You gonna buy Ford?
No, I said Henry Ford wouldn't be happy. All right. Okay. I thought I had something else, but I think I was just going to make a statement that we was talking about finances earlier and close on that bond yesterday, but you know, some of these purchases that we've made over the past year has been less than 1%.
That's a fact.
I think the vehicles one was
They
less
were
than 2%.
they were just over 1, like 103, 103.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah. So, all right, entertain a motion for the
Emergency
request of
purchase.
emergency vehicle purchase.
So move, Mr. President.
And that motion would be that they make it clear with what Gary and Alan wants, is it gives them the direction to go out, and if they find something, to put a deposit and come back for the county council on the following Thursday and ask for a purchase.
Yeah, with the supporting documents.
Yes.
Yeah, I second the motion.
All right. All in favor? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Let's take a quick break.
Watch out.
All right, we're back in session. Next on our agenda is Brian Ross, Director of Community Development. Follow up on 2020 National Electrical Code Amendment, and that was basically because of shortage of supplies. We didn't do the update, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, bring us up to date, please.
Okay. Just to regroup, back in July, the council adopted a new building code ordinance, which became enacted on August 1st. As we dealt with material shortages and that, we decided to do an amendment to that to just currently enforce the 2017 NEC. And that we would revisit this at the end of December. Since this time, I have reached out to Mr. Butcher from First Energy on 3 different occasions, along with Wes Clark, probably 4 or 5 different times. I had Wes deal with his local suppliers and online suppliers for availability of resources. Talking to Mr. Butcher, his last communications that we had 2 days ago, he stated that he has inventory, but not surplus. He said he's able to meet current demands, but we didn't discuss what if an emergency situation would happen.
Emergency or future.
Future.
Meaning they have enough to supply what they had on the books yesterday, but not tomorrow.
Correct. He basically stated he's able to meet current demands. In discussing with Mr. Clark, he checked 7 to 8 different local suppliers and online dealers. And as for our ground faults and arc faults, they are now in stock. The issue that we have right now is the 200 amp weatherproof service disconnect for the outside, which is part of the 2020 NEC. In him checking with these suppliers, we have
The disconnect or the socket?
disconnect.
Disconnect. Okay.
Yeah.
Like
And
a NEMA 3 box, isn't it?
yeah. And availability is anywhere currently from 1 to 3 months. Now, are we able to meet demand with new homes? He said possibly. But the problem is we have
You
emergencies.
can't live on that possible.
No, we have service upgrades and expansions on existing projects that need this equipment.
The help's on its way, though.
Correct.
The federal government's taking care of that for you.
Yeah.
We're holding our breath.
Although they're taking care of it.
So, and the
what
fact
I mean
that,
by that,
go ahead.
I talk too much, by the way, but I make it fun, I think. Talked to a good banker friend of mine. Alan, listen to this, and you need to listen too. They're doing 25% of business they were doing in commercial and 50% on the residential. That's how much they're applying the brakes hard. So the shortages that you have will catch up here real soon.
Right.
And Anthony knows how I got on Norwood's nerves yesterday. Now I'm getting on his.
Looks like he's enjoying it. So, with that being said, my recommendation to the council would be to enact the 2020 NEC with the amendment of the 200 amp service disconnect till approximately March or April. And then revisit it and see where supplies currently are at that point. That's just a recommendation I'm putting forward for you guys to discuss.
You can't afford to lose any more hair.
No, I can't. No, I can't. I tried to let it grow out for deer season. It didn't work.
I met with Brian a couple times, and then he did bring Thomas Butcher in one day, and
Yeah.
we discussed it, and I'm comfortable with that recommendation.
Yeah, I think so too. So entertain a motion on the
Adoption.
recommendation, I'd say.
I'll move to accept the recommendation from Brian Rawson, Planning and Engineering Department on the,
Now, are we stipulating March 1st or?
To be.
To be
that-
revisited at March 1st
Yeah.
about the implementation of the electrical codes.
Okay, and I will get in contact
well,
with the
just-
electrical
You're
inspectors.
just asking about the disconnect.
Disconnect.
Yes, sir.
That's
Yes.
the only thing we're doing, is
Yeah.
disconnect.
Yes.
So you're saying go ahead and,
Gonna apply.
are we gonna adopt?
Apply the 2020 with the amendment to the disconnect, 200 amps.
Is that,
So we've already adopted,
It-
we just withheld enforcement of the electrical part because of
Correct.
the change.
so now
Just
we're enforcing it and going through with the 2020, except for the service disconnect.
Correct.
Second.
Yes.
Get that, Penny?
So yes.
All right, we have a motion on the floor, we have a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, the motion carries.
And I will send out notification to the electrical inspectors, get with Matt, send out mass notification there and send it out to our roundtable for
Yeah.
developers, builders and everything, everyone that's on there.
All right, Brian, thank you.
Thanks.
Don't go too far, you're next too.
I'm gonna sit right here.
All right. Next on our agenda is Brian Ross, Director of Community Development, Sheriff Nathan Harmon, Public Nuisance Ordinance. All right, which one of you want to go first? Oh, it's gonna be, Legal Counsel,
Yeah.
Director, Anthony Delegetti.
So for a while, Brian and the sheriff have discussed ways to get at various nuisances. Councilman Gokenhour has also asked me to draft a nuisance ordinance some time ago. Now, I'll just go through and try to explain it briefly and have some questions. So essentially, there's two different avenues in here to go after nuisances. Article 2 deals with Brian's side of things, and you have to establish this committee in order for a litter control officer to go out and issue citations for a civil penalty. So if this would only apply to unsafe structures, litter, open dumps, things like that. So then you could have a litter control officer go out there, write a citation. They can appeal it up to you. But that citation then is a civil penalty, meaning that money can go back into funding this program. Whereas now, if Brian's office goes and tries to prosecute somebody for a maintenance code violation, go to magistrate court. Magistrate court may impose a fine, but that fine then goes into the court system and is distributed just like any other criminal fine, which some goes to the board of education, some goes to various other funds. Doesn't stay here. So that's, in addition, it also provides for getting liens on property. So if you get you cite a property, it's unsafe, or it's got an open dump, the county council could then come in and order that it's not cleaned up, and we still have this daily fine going on, where somebody from the council would either contract it out or go clean it up ourselves and then get a lien on the property, and could, if it came to it, go to court to force the sale of the property to collect on that, to satisfy them. So it just is given a little more tools than you have currently. Section 3 is the broader abatement of public nuisance.
On that, Anthony, I want to make sure where this nuisance would be more for going after people that intentionally don't respect. It's more for for,
Total disregard is what it
Yes.
truly is.
total disregard, a great way to put it, Eddie. But not targeted toward the people that may be less fortunate to be able to maintain their structure. Is that right?
Correct.
And we're not going to penalize someone because they can't. They're going through hard times and they may not be able to keep the appearance up. But at the same time, if you totally disregard and you're, like I always said, my mother-in-law raised 7 kids by herself, right? But I never seen trash in the yard. I never seen it not being taken care of, like I see things today.
So under this statute, you have to have that committee with the various people on it. They can get whatever authority to the litter control officer to do it. But they're not going to be out there citing somebody because there's a candy bar wrapper.
Right.
And this is different than the Safe and Clean program that we had years ago. And I want to point that out. I mean, our intent is not to go in and buy property, clean them up, and then sell them. Or when clean the property up, put a lien on it until it's sold. We tried that, and as you know, that didn't work. So this is more nuisance properties.
Right.
So you would need a complaint from a citizen to initiate.
It doesn't necessarily, I mean, usually there are complaints from citizens. But
But it could be something generated from in-house as well as
Yeah,
a drive-by
they can
or
check
something.
this out.
And I'm glad of that too, because I hate that somebody's got to complain about something because it's very unfair.
In writing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there goes your anonymity and everything else.
Yeah. But to me, it's very unfair because there's a lot of people out there that tries to be rebellious on people just to do that.
And there's some people out there who love to make complaints.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
And we have had instances in the past where we've had properties that, so 2, 3, 4 times a week, law enforcement or ambulance was there. Well, under this regulation, it could be classified as a nuisance property and maybe give the sheriff a little bit more authority to deal with those.
Yeah. And I guess the next concern of mine would be, and I did read it, Eddie asked me to read it, and I just didn't comment about it, is the enforcement side of it. How I mean, that's the hard thing on ordinances is being able to enforce what you're saying. From the sheriff, from Brian, from the county, are we going to be able to enforce this document?
Yes, and just to go on to section 3 there, that Alan was discussing, giving the sheriff another avenue to go after nuisance properties, such as a business that has repeated calls for service like a current generator, crime a tractor, or a drug house. Here you couldn't just go issue a citation, you have to serve them with a notice that there's a public nuisance. Hey, you need to abate this nuisance. They can appeal and say, hey, this isn't a public nuisance. But if they don't do that, then if they don't within 30 days do that, then we take it to court, just like we've done with the opioid litigation. The council declared that a public nuisance, and it wouldn't be something we would follow down in litigation a decade like that. But you just go there and say, hey, they didn't fix this nuisance. There's still a bunch of drug activity calls for service there. Court, can you shut this down? And you could even force this, sell the property, collect money, damages back.
Okay, so we keep on reverting back to the sale of property. On the nuisance side of it, is it going to be towards the person that's creating the nuisance, or is it going to be towards the property owner?
It's the property owner.
Even though it's a person that creates the nuisance.
Whoever has the authority, I guess, to.
So the prime example, if somebody owns a piece of property, I'm thinking of one, Ryan. somebody owns a piece of property, and a person was a tenant that brought all the junk in there, are we gonna go after the person that brought the junk, or are we gonna go after the person that owns the property?
Well, this, I believe this situation is, if they have the ability to kick out the tenant who keeps selling drugs or has it, and they refuse to, that's when this applies.
And a lot of people, from what I understand, no, I don't want to say that I know a lot of people like that, but the people that I've talked to that thinks they have drug activity, this actually gives them the tool to evict the people, right?
Certainly.
Because
We can
it could
make
be
sure that that's
questionable.
in there.
It could be questionable for the landlord to do it, but once you get served by this, now you got a tool to say, I'm sorry, but you got to go now.
I'll put in there a provision that anybody under, a tenant under contract, if they're the source of public nuisance in the landlord.
And also put in there that I'd like to see that not only the person that would be the property owner, but the one that created the nuisance would have to be going after as well. I don't know if that's possible from a legal standpoint.
I think we also have to make sure that we're in compliance with the federal housing laws as well. But this discussion started really with the sheriff when he came before us months ago, and he had these subjects in a house that was in poor condition. It was an I forget the name he called it. I call it a drug house. I think he called it a trap house was the word. But the only avenue he had to get those people out of that structure was to go through a building inspector's office, and because it did not have running water, and of course it wouldn't have had sewer either, that was the only avenue we had to clean that house up and get those people out of there. So this does not go as far, I don't think, as the city's drug house ordinance does. And this particular ordinance covers a lot of different stuff. And I wholeheartedly agree with you, because we have some businesses that are owned by a company or a person that's actually being operated by another person, where we have no authority over what goes on there. The state has very little authority what goes on, and it's been a detriment to that communities. So this gives us the ability to deal with some of these structures.
And if I can echo what Councilman Gokenauer had stated to, we have had multiple situations where we have utilized Mr. Ross's department and went in tandem to these properties. Three I'll bring up specifically. One young lady up in Falling Waters was actually started her own business, if you will, with not having gone through the proper processes, and was actually gathering garbage and items from other states and bringing it to West Virginia in the Falling Waters area and actually dumping it on her own property. It got so full that it went over the fence. Neighbors started complaining. That's when I picked up the phone, and Mr. Piafor of Mr. Ross's office has been a trooper with the whole thing. He's been shoulder to shoulder with me, and he asked for my help, and we went up there, and of course, there's a lot of drug use indication with a lot of these places. And so working in tandem has worked out beautifully, because we were able to put certain standards on the situation and give them a progress plan to move forward, so they get a chance to better the environment, the situation that they're in. And if they don't in a period of 30 days, then now we start instituting fines and whatnot. And those are daily occurrences.
In that situation, Sheriff Brian, isn't that considered an open dump from the DEP?
DEP, Mike Camille was involved with that, and Keith, most of it had to deal with, we dealt with it on our side as an open dump and salvage and rubbish material, in which the sheriff his staff and my staff visited that place multiple times with multiple arrests.
But this is another prime example that our state agencies aren't doing their job.
Well,
Historically, that's been clearly DEP's responsibility.
We've had this subject in court multiple times until we finally got closure on this.
yeah, there's been some stipulations with DEP as I got to talk with the gentleman and brought him up here for inspections. There has to be a body of water or an active stream very nearby where the dump is before they can actually get some teeth to it. And so when we started another incident, Grapevine Road, fecal matter in the house. It was used as a squatting house where they're utilizing dope inside the house. No running water, holes in the walls, holes in the floor, and whatnot. Our deputies reached out to Mr. Ross's department and was able to deem that structure inhabitable. Another incident when Sportsman's was off Dillweed. A lot of these can cross the line into criminal, which this one did. This young lady was actually not only selling drugs out of her house, but also dealing a small amount, but mainly allowing her house to be utilized by Maryland dope dealers to come in and sell from her place. So much so, it reminded you of a drugstore. As you walked in, they actually had signage saying no fronts, no bumps, cash only, things of that nature, actual signage. That's how carelessly they were, but that's also how unchecked they was. We have limitations. So subsequent to criminal arrest and different things like that, it wasn't 2 weeks after she got out of jail, she started again. And criminally, there's avenues that we can pursue, not only for abatement, but procedure as well. So there's been people that operate a mechanic shop, if you will, or salvage yard, buying a chunk of property where it's surrounded by those folks that have retired, want to enjoy their retirement, but they can't because 2 a.m. there's someone welding or banging on a car because they're fixing a derby car up for the fair or something like that, or they're claiming that they're a scrap entity, and now you have all this disruption. So the complaints from the community and working with Mr. Ross's office, instead of trying to work individually and separately and trying to see where we can do things, this ordinance that Mr. Delegati had put together is phenomenal because it marries all of that together. It does give them a process. We would never hold a landlord accountable for anything that the property manager should have known. We have to prove a preponderance of evidence towards the likelihood that they should have known. And a lot of times I feel this to be rewarding for someone that's got multiple properties and hired a manager and never even knew that this manager was either skimming off the top of things or allowing this stuff to grow within their rentals. So it's not only a tool that the landlords could use, but it also is something that can hold landlords accountable for those, and there's some that just worry about the check at the end of the month, and they could care less about who's renting their property, and they don't do the proper vetting as a landlord. I'm not a business owner of real estate, but I would assume that everyone would want to invest in that, good renters. So this does all that, and I'm very excited about what Mr. Delegati's put together, and I hope the council can review it and agree with it.
There's a place that I know of that way.
We have a FTA warrant out on that property right
I
now.
know you did.
And not just because the sheriff is standing, he's so overwhelmed with work right now. Hopefully, we can discuss maybe possibly a different avenue to help him out.
Well, you got one situation on that with the property down in the north end. Big time.
Berkeley Cleanup Association or Council or whatever the heck it is. But
Berkeley Pride?
No, Berkeley Cleanup. It's a like 10-member committee.
So, West Virginia Code 713FF, which gives the county commission the authority to issue citations for open dumps, litter, unsafe structures, etc. Says that the county must adopt the words that shall designate an enforcement agency which shall consist of the county engineer, county health officer, fire chief, county litter control officer, and 2 members at large.
And it's something the director of community development, whatever that is. Does this have to be?
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're looking at him.
Well,
Wherever that is.
yeah.
Is it the glare?
Well, director of community development, I'm not sure if that's the right title, but
That's his
does
title.
this have to meet so many times a year or
There's
what?
nothing clear about how it's in there about that they have to draft bylaws. I would think the committee could meet on a need basis at least once or twice a year. Just get updates and guidance on what nuisances there are, what activity get done, but delegate the authority to the sheriff, the Bryan Litter Patrol Officer, to actually enforce it.
Do we have to hold public hearings on that?
There's no requirement that you have to hold a public hearing.
Well,
I would think that
I would, you've never adopted an ordinance without
Yeah.
at
Oh, that's
least
what I was
having one
thinking.
public hearing.
I
I think
would-
you should have.
I would like to have public input.
Yes, sir. I would recommend that.
and also the sheriff had even mentioned town hall meeting, various town hall meetings, which I support and would be willing to participate with him.
Good luck on that one. I
At least we
mean, that
tried.
was my idea back 12 years ago, and they said it wasn't gonna work, and by God, they were right. The ones you see in the audience here every Thursday, that's the one that will be there on those.
I don't disagree with you, but also it does give the public that opportunity, and you can say, look,
Yeah.
we were there and you
Talk,
weren't.
talk to Dan about public hearings or
Yeah, but
town hall meeting.
And Councilperson Coconut, you're recommending that you and the sheriff do a
Not
survey,
staff.
not the full council.
Oh,
No.
I know that recently,
We took the council meetings in the evening. We couldn't conduct business, but we took it there, and it was just
Right.
total disaster.
and I think what they're proposing is something similar to what Councilperson Delier did.
Yeah,
You know, where he went around the county with different issues, so.
yeah. The bill that the state passed, I think, 2 sessions ago, where there was, or maybe the governor just allotted money to go in and demo blighted houses in the community. We know anything about that? How do you apply for that?
I don't think
Brian?
Was this through the money through DEP?
I don't know where it's at.
There
Where-
was money out there, and talking, actually, when I was in Flatwoods last week for training, the governmental relations specialist for the International Code Council was there. And I brought up that conversation, actually, of all the money that was set aside for West Virginia. And I questioned the fact, because it was up to them how they dispersed it. And I asked about Berkeley County and why we didn't receive any money for that. And they said it was based off of population density and age of structures. So in our case, with all the building that's been going on, the average age of a structure, we are much higher.
So
Even
was-
though we have an increased population, even though we have the same issues that other counties do, that's how it was warranted. So a lot of your other counties receive that money.
So it was structured for growing counties.
Yes, sir.
I believe that is how it's been used. I don't think it's written that it has to be that way. And I don't think we formally applied for those funds, but you have a lot of towns in West Virginia where you walk down the main street and all of them are 8 feet or abandoned. It's that right now.
All right, so any questions for the three young men?
Well, what's the next step?
Next is to approve or to I guess to give direction to move forward with the public hearing.
Consensus of the county, of the council, is for us to schedule a public hearing. It'll be sometime in January.
Right. It'd be a morning and an evening. You want to try to have town hall meeting before then?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No, but also an opportunity, that if any of you guys have additional thoughts or something that can make this ordinance better, we want your input.
Well, yeah, and I think my biggest thoughts was those concerns I expressed today. I just hate to see, naturally, ultimately, if a landlord has a bad tenant, it's their responsibility, but at the same time, if you don't make it to the point where the person is creating the pile, all they're going to do is move and do it again. You're going to move, right? So.
And currently, from a building code perspective, through the IPMC or IRC or IBC codes, we have to recognize the parcel owner as the violator.
All right, so let me ask you, this is a pretty good legal question. If you're able to recognize the one that's created let's say the open dump, that could be a tenant, could be somebody that's driving along the road and created that open dump, period, right? Because you'll go after them too, right? It may be on state property. Is there a way to be able to put something on record where a landlord could go and see that this person has been a nuisance in the county, to where it gives them a heads up to where that person doesn't go from one piece of property to the next?
If they've been charged, you can go in the magistrate's office and type up their name, if they've applied for an application.
So that somebody can be directed to go to the court records and be able to walk through that. But not the property owner. It's going to be the one that created the nuisance. Property owner didn't do anything wrong,
Other than
so to
rent it
say.
to somebody.
Right.
Do you guys, or would you guys ever reach out to the property owner and let them know that their property's beginning to become a nuisance, that there's calls being made? Because I just know, like for one instance, my father had a piece of property in the city, and evidently there had been a lot of calls being made, but he was unaware of it. And then he just got blasted and put in the newspaper, completely unaware that the situation was going on. It was a boyfriend of a tenant. And, the tenant was a good tenant. Boyfriend was causing issues. Evidently there was calls being made, but he was completely unaware of it. It was more domestics and things like that. And then all of a sudden, arrest happened there, and then it was a public nuisance, and he got put in the paper as a drug house ordinance thing and all that, and was just completely blindsided by it, and I think if you would work with the landlords or whatnot in advance, that could be helpful too. And I mean, you won't want to jeopardize an investigation clearly, but some happy medium there.
Mr. Boyd, currently the way my office handles that sort of situation is if Mr. Copenhagen's a violator, I will reach out to him basically verbally, or if I can't reach him verbally, written. Hey, we got an issue, let's talk about it, see what we can do to get it taken care of. Nothing happens within 30 days, he gets a second notice. Please contact the office for remediation of these measures, or you could possibly face court fines. If I don't hear anything from him in another 30 to 35 days, no communication, I file through the court. There is chances, there is open communication with them, given the chance for them to respond to me before I proceed next door.
That's great.
And that would be the intent for issuing the citation as well, after multiple contacts.
Right.
And usually if somebody goes and fixes a problem, it's easy. It's fixed.
Right.
So we'll worry about it. But there are, of course, property owners, occupants that continue to defy.
Right.
Right. But
And
you
they also
understand-
continue to defy landlords too.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's real important that occupant is listed on that citation somewhere, because I don't want to go to magistrate court and say, oh, well, Mr. Whitaker's been taken to court for failure to maintain a property, and the occupant itself is never listed, because now it's not fair to him, it's not fair to anybody like that, but it's the occupant that, don't get me wrong, we have some authority, but I'll give examples like Mr. Boyd just gave. I had a tenant that kept throwing trash out the back door and wouldn't take it to my dumpster. And basically, you got to get this cleaned up. And it got to the point where you're gonna, this is it, you're done, and been okay ever since. But if I had that paper, you all doing something, it makes it very easy for me to go to court and say you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
And-
Whole lot easier.
And I think that this ordinance also gives the sheriff an opportunity to address that issue and get a plan of correction established to correct that issue. And if it's not corrected, then you move to the next level. But there is that opportunity for abatement and to be able to get a plan. Maybe it's an establishment that this needs additional lighting. Maybe it's somebody that needs a little bit better, more attention to what's going on in that facility.
Right.
I sort of have this type of document in my lease. And if it comes from you all, and I can take it to my tenant and say, this was in your lease, and now I'm going to enforce it, or have somebody enforce it, you usually get their attention pretty quick.
Right. All right, we're running behind schedule and we got a busy day, so sounds like the direction is move forward. We'll start scheduling public hearings and go from there. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda, Sheriff, you're a popular person today. Sheriff Nathan Harmon, Mike Lang, Chief Court Marshal, approval of Transportation Division.
That could be,
I was the only one who got the memo about dress down Thursday.
So when do you take flight again?
Monday, hopefully.
as you all are aware of, there was a bill that was passed legislation authored by Mr. Delegate Rohrbach, and who I've had the privilege to speak with in person about the issues that we have with the bill, but Berkeley County was mentioned as a pilot. We've since, working with Mr. Lang in his office, with his court marshals, we since developed that pilot program that was required of us. I believe it was us, Cabell County, and a couple other counties specifically mentioned in this bill to come up with a pilot program. And then subsequently submit information on how well it worked. We're at that point. Mr. Lang and I have already discussed how we would do this with establishing a transportation division that would be overseen by the Berkeley County Sheriff's Office. Forms be submitted by the Berkeley County Sheriff's Office under the tutelage of Mr. Lang and his 4 transportation officers, who have already supplied an enormous, more than required training background for all 4 individuals that would start this program. We're at a point now where me and Mr. Lang can establish an MOU if the council so agrees, that how we would do this in a more of a timetable format when something happens. So all the way even down towards arraignments and extraditions. Our largest lift is obviously mental hygienes, and we've had literally, this is a light month, but over the course of the past 30 days, 8 trips, and an average of $2,321 spent just in overtime for deputies just to go back and forth and transport these individuals. Hands down, Mr. Lang's employees are subject matter experts in detention and escort. And I'd say the biggest dividend that comes out of this is you don't have to have a certified officer on the roadway, making a 10-hour round trip. They can actually stay here in this county and provide their citizens with the service that they've sworn to do. That is the biggest investment.
How long is the pilot?
I don't know.
I've never read
There was information that's supposed to be submitted July of this year in terms of what the stipulations to the pilot program should be.
Anthony, you getting ready to say something?
I don't believe there's a time limit. It's just, I think they're gonna go back and review it.
Well, and the reason I ask that is if it's a pilot and we're gonna make these transitions, in other words, we're gonna go from the deputies transporting to Mr. Lang's division, you'll have to upstaff your personnel, right? So I just don't want, I need to know, and actually, and I fully expect them to look at the pilot that you all put together and say, yes, this is great, let's keep it going. But the last thing I want to do is make an adjustment to your staff and of 4 additional people, and all of a sudden they say, well, we don't like the pilot you presented, we don't think it's working.
Well, with that in mind, that's why we're taking an extra step, doing arraignments, extraditions, taking all transportation issues over from the sheriff's office.
Hypothetically, gentlemen, ma'am, regardless of this bill, I love Berkeley County being first in everything. This would be Berkeley County taking the lead and spearheading this for others to follow. If the bill didn't exist, we'd be doing this anyway, or the request would be asked. Because it's such a heavy burden on the county, we will submit 90 days after a good, strong period of information as we collect it. We don't have a problem with that. Part of my discussion with Mr. Rohrbach was the issues with the bill in terms of reimbursing 1 officer versus 2 officers. You have to have 2 officers. It's an officer safety issue. You're struggling with DHHR. There's not been 1 red cent reimbursed at all to our agencies. And I can tell you, Morgan County's been submitting since July, since the bill passed. We have been submitting since minimum September. None of us has seen a red cent.
And that's through DHHR.
Yes, sir. And they're currently going under leadership construction. So it's a warm, hot mess down there, but this is hands down one of the best, I think, ideas that we've ever collaborated on to make sure our officers stay here.
And I brought the 4 over that we deemed to take over this. You're looking over 100 years experience of inmate transport.
Oh, yeah.
They don't look that old.
Combined. If we didn't have that stable of experience, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah.
Another caveat, 2 of them live within 5 minutes from here, and another 2 live 20 minutes. So
It looks like they're ready to go today.
We're ready to go today.
Yeah, I'm not going across the state, the guys. I'm okay mentally right now.
Are you sure?
Don't get excited. Help me out, and this is stupidity on my behalf.
You just contradicted yourself.
I know, but I'm not mentally. Arraignment. What you
When you
mean?
get arrested Monday through Friday, 9 to 5.
Okay.
Instead of taking to the jail, you're taken to judicial center through 24 hours.
And the deputy has to stay there.
You could be number 1 in line or number 4 in line.
Right. Until the magistrate gets there, right?
And we tracked that for a period and did a timetable, and that's estimated they're spending over 500 hours a year in that arraignment.
So basically, the deputy would drop them off, and one of your guys would take them from there.
Wherever they go, get released from the jail.
So would they be on call to do that, or are they going to be at the
The
jail?
arraignment's Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 only.
On Monday. Okay.
Right.
What about when they bring them in after hours?
They go to jail.
Oh,
And they're
okay.
video arraigned, they're arraigned in person.
Okay. All right. So just 9 to 5,
9 to 5 only, Monday through Friday.
and that's 500 hours a year that a deputy's doing that. Overtime.
We're estimating over 4,500 man hours a year is spent in transports and transport related.
You get a DUI 30 minutes before your shift's supposed to end, you're probably getting, on an average, even when I was doing them as fast as I could do them, 2 hours.
2 hours.
2 hours.
And I'm not saying anything negative, I hope it's not taken that way. With the new magistrates, it's only getting slower. There's a learning curve.
Sure.
It's not their fault.
Sure.
It's a learning curve. We don't have Harry Snow who can come in and do it from memory.
Right.
Them days are gone.
All right, Mr. Davis. input?
You know, I'm always concerned about budget, particularly this time of the year. We're in 3 weeks. We're right back into next year's budget. I'm concerned about, unencumbered fund balance because we need that unencumbered fund balance to pay our bills in July, August. The sheriff and Mike have admitted this does not save you any money. I mean, it's not going to save the county any money.
No, it's not going to save us.
It's more efficient.
Right.
It's a better use of your resources, and it puts deputies.
It's going to cost us 4 salaries.
It
right?
is. It's going to cost you
Right,
4
plain and simple.
salaries.
Four today, maybe 5 here before long. We know how we grow, and then so it's going to cost. It's going to cost us to do that. And Sheriff, we talked about this morning. And now we're able to put more deputies back on the street, right? And I'll proudly say this sheriff recognizes that.
My understanding when this all started is that we were going to set up a separate department, separate from 700 and separate from 416. 700 is law enforcement, 416 is court security. So we would set up a separate call center. So 4 court marshals would be assigned, just like we do with home confinement. They would be set up as a separate department and all the expenses associated with that. And that department would be under the span of control of Mike. Is that not?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You're good.
Okay.
So under that, Mike, would that, it's kind of like we was talking this morning, would that have categories? I mean, would that department have
Like equipment. and
mental
supplies,
hygiene, transports would be one pay category, and arraignment would be another, especially
I
we're going to
think-
try to get reimbursed?
I think from a budgetary standpoint, that would be a great idea.
I mean,
Extraditions
Keep
and,
track of that
Yeah.
internally.
Because we got to get reimbursed, right? I mean, we got to be able to prove to DHHR this is a transport and this is what's going to be the arrangement. So because they're not going to pay for the whole budget.
And I truly think that if the council decides to do this, I think you need to approach it with the hope that we're going to see some state reimbursement, but not with that expectation.
All right, so let's go back on the state reimbursement. Anthony, does the bill not only pay for the reimbursement of salaries? Does it do anything for the transport vehicles that we got to buy? We got to spend $100,000 every 2 to 3 years?
So the transport is again just for
Mental hygiene,
It's
right?
not for the other transports.
And those vehicles I'm talking about, that's all they're used for, mental hygiene.
Correct. I talked to the attorney at DHHR and they said that for one person's cost, salary, et cetera. There's nothing clear in there that says. I mean, clearly it would be for mileage or gas.
Well, we'll take mileage. That's more than the vehicle.
mileage per diem.
And the reason I asked that, Sheriff, is because if you're submitting bills and you may be submitting for reimbursement of time spent, then I don't know whether we should be submitting bills for mileage.
Yeah, the mileage is included.
Yours is included in the.
On the mental hygiene, yes. So, and your issues are the issues of the Sheriff's Association.
Right.
And we discussed this with the bill author, and he agrees that it needs, and he was very forthcoming with the fact that he did not know of these issues, wasn't aware of these issues, but we were assured unofficially in person that he would address these issues. And it's echoed throughout the state.
Yeah.
And these 4 staff members recognize it's 24/7.
We currently have 2 transport vehicles that are not marked cruisers, correct?
So like,
I think one
Is one,
white one, yeah.
okay. So, I mean, we don't necessarily have to go out and buy new vehicles right away,
No,
but as you know,
it's every 2 years or so we do.
every couple of years we just beat the crap out of those vehicles.
Well, high
because
mileage.
They are, and it's mostly highway, but it's still high mileage. So, I mean, we could probably get by with the vehicles that we have now, with the understanding that probably next fiscal
I was
year,
gonna say, they'll be good for another year, that's about it.
we're gonna have to put it in the budget.
All right,
I see this as a win-win personally.
I
If
do.
it wasn't for us willing to work together and having the staff we have, we wouldn't be in front of it. We are firmly believe that this would be a win-win.
Gary says we have two marked Tahoes and that they're both white.
Yeah.
That was Gary.
So, I mean, at this point in time, it's with what the state has did with the bill, we wouldn't be out. I mean, and this is what we talked about this morning, Sheriff. I mean, we're going to continue to fund all the positions you have. It's not like we're taking away some money out of your budget and give it to him. So it's another thing, like home confinement and community service and all that stuff. We've taken on those responsibilities and grown our
Oh yeah, this
county
is
council.
exactly like community service,
Right.
home confinement, court security.
Right, exactly. So, and again, this sheriff recognizes that and fully respects it, right? So it's all about, you want to try it with does the council want to try it with 4 new positions and the new, department would have to be infused with 4 salaries.
Well,
benefits.
but just for a portion of the year. You figure we're halfway through the fiscal year. By the time we advertise and backfill positions,
It'll be February.
So-
February 1st, I see us taking over.
I mean, we could do it. We'd have to put together a budget to fund it for 5 months, which we would bring it to the council.
And I would like to bring the 4 new on in January. Give me 2 or 3 weeks
I was
training.
gonna say,
We're not gonna have them on board that quick, but
people beat down your door to come to work for you.
Yes, sir, we are. That's full fact.
we'll have to publicly recruit it. I mean, we can close it in 2 weeks, but we'll have to go through the process.
How far into the next year were you recommending, because of budget, going into next year's budget, delaying this, how far out were you?
You can fund it this year. You can do it, you can decide you're gonna fund it for 4 months or 5 months. And then as part of Mike's budget presentation, he'll just have to put together, in addition to the budget for 416, he'll have to put together a budget for presentation for the new division. And we'll call it the transportation division. of the
And
department.
if that's done, are we gonna take the mental hygiene budget out of the council and put it in that new?
Yes.
Makes sense to do that. There you go, Mike. You're starting to become like that Mr. Wine. You're growing your department, man.
If I didn't have the experience I have, sir, I would be standing for that.
Gary says the 2 vehicles that we have are 2020 Tahoes, and that we're averaging about 35,000 miles a year on each one,
Right.
which isn't terrible.
And it doesn't sound like, I mean, that would last me 10 years, but it's just the
If you were
use that-
driving it all the time.
Yeah, exactly. For my wife. All right. I'm all for it. Everybody else?
I think it's a win.
And I think you're saving overtime. Overtime adds up in a hurry.
Yeah. So
Got a motion you want?
I don't think
Or
we need a
direction.
motion. We want to move in the direction, right? Or I guess we do need a motion
You need
because
a motion to
we're
create the Department of
Transportation Division.
Transportation Division with an effective date of February 1st, and then we'll bring a budget into you.
with the appropriate funding.
That is my motion.
Have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen,
Thank you,
for
gentlemen.
being creative and trying to save money and time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Men, thank y'all for doing what you do. I hope I never get to have to be transported because you guys look a lot bigger than me.
Yeah, I think they'd have you under control.
With that, and with that 100 years of experience.
I don't think I'd have that furry handcuffs, would I?
No.
We get that. Great.
Huh?
We got special.
All right, Mr. Davis, you got holiday schedule?
Yes, sir. I apologize. I'm late in getting the 2023 holiday schedule to you for approval. The employees have reminded me that they don't know when they're off next year.
Oh, man.
This year, we had the 2 additional holidays due to the primary and general election, which we will not have in 2023. Also, the West Virginia state holiday schedule provides for a half a day off on the day before New Year's and the half day off on Christmas Eve, except when the holiday falls on Sunday or Monday. And as you can see, this year that's the case. So they're not proposing the half a day holiday, the half day off before New Year's and the half day off before Christmas. Although, as you know, the governor typically in the 11th hour declares
Time off.
Anyway, and I have to scramble to come before you anyway. But as it stands right now, there are 11 holidays on the state holiday schedule for 2023, as you see before you.
What happened to Juneteenth?
Juneteenth, they combined. If you remember last year at this time I brought in, they had Juneteenth and West Virginia Day. And they're back to back.
Yeah.
Well, in January, February, they decided they were taking Juneteenth away and that they were going to combine it into one day. So I had you modify the holiday schedule to remove Juneteenth. But then in June, the governor declared Juneteenth as a holiday anyway. So as it stands right now, Juneteenth is not on the holiday schedule, but I anticipate that we will be back in
Make some adjustments.
next year anyway.
Yeah, that's a federal holiday.
It is a federal holiday.
All right, entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I move to adopt the 2023 holiday schedule as presented.
Yeah, you adopt or approve, Anthony? Matter? Okay, it used to matter. All right, so we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Supplemental funding, Mr. Davis?
Yes, sir. This is, finally, I think this will put to rest the supplemental funding that the council had begun discussions on March of this year. As you know, we provided some funding to the airport, to the Apollo Civic Theater, and to Legion Baseball out of the quality of life funding. That funding has already been distributed. Last week, the council approved $38,085 for the roundhouse, which was requested several months ago, as well as $6,000 for historic Morgan cabin. Disbursement of those funds from the general fund is ongoing. You then directed me to take the remaining agencies on the list and whatever the initial amount was that you had discussed for funding, just have that and bring it back in. So you'll see correspondence from me dated December 15th, 2022, recommending, based on the direction that you provided last week, that Main Street Martinsburg received $12,500, Child Advocacy Center would get $5,000, Community Alternatives to Violence would get $5,000, Boys and Girls Club of the Eastern Panhandle $12,500, Landmarks Commission $775, Meals on Wheels $4,000, CCAP Loaves and Fishes $1,000, Hospice $1,500, Red Cross $1,250, CASA $2,500, and Eastern Panhandle Transit Authority $30,000, for a total amount of $76,025.
I'm gonna go ahead and start the conversation out, and that's exactly what we asked Mr. Davis to do. However, this is 50% of what we discussed in March when we set in the budget. And I spoke with Alan, and I actually talked with Eddie on Tuesday. I have a problem with that. And and it's more of a principal problem. I guess principal might be the right word, but back in March, we decided to give the outside agencies twice as much as what we're proposing today, right? And we said that they give us so much in return, because they're all nonprofits. They're agencies that work on a shoestring budget, and we didn't make a commitment in March. But if I was one of them agencies and I was listening to our budget sessions, I would have expected after we voted that we was all in favor of doing that. I think we put it to vote, or at least a direction.
You never put it together.
Okay, but a direction. I think the only thing the strongest thing that we have to protect our reputation as a work, and I'm in favor of paying 100% of what we verbally spoke about, and keeping our word. Or again, it's kind of like saying, I'm not going to draw up a contract, and I'm going to give you $1,000, but you can basically take my word. I'm going to get you $1,000. My word is everything to me. And back then we felt like we had the money to do it, and I feel that I don't want to turn back on that. But if you all want to do 50% and look at it at the next budget cycle, that's fine. But to me, I just don't like doing that.
Well, it's funny, in the Morgan Messenger last week, the infamous Peter Miller, who often writes against the city of Martinsburg in the Martinsburg Journal, wrote a letter to the editor in Morgan County. And he was saying that Berkeley County has all this money from ARP, $45 million.
I'm glad he thinks that.
Yeah, and he doesn't understand why they just don't cut a check to all the citizens of Berkeley County and distribute this $45 million. It's like, okay.
Sounds like he better keep writing instead of on the math class. But,
So there you go.
But anyway,
I agree with it.
I agree with you, Doug. I mean, I think our premises was cutting it in half because we're so far into the budget cycle. But I would want to make it whole, and if we can do that now, I'd like to make sure that we do that now.
I know you're not going to like me, but that's how I feel.
Just remember that you'll be gone. Just remember that when these agencies come in for saying, wait a minute, we just gave you $60,000.
Yeah.
So your suggestion is to go for another round of asking what?
I'm saying instead of $76,025, go ahead and give these agencies $152,050.
You're saying just up these amounts that are on this list?
Just double the
Double
amount.
to what the original amount.
Because this is only 50% of what we were planning on doing in March.
I would hope that they would understand that that's one-time money.
We made that very
We
clear.
made that very clear. Sorry, Alan.
You're killing me. What I would recommend in whatever the council decides is fine. And I'm going to do it for the roundhouse and for landmarks. Is once you decide what you're going to do, I'll put together correspondence to each agency for you to sign next week.
Right.
That says this is one-time supplemental funding, and this is what the council has decided to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I read it.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Make a
Make it so.
motion, or
Make a motion. Yeah, make a motion to.
Eddie, you want to make that?
Well, you want to make that motion today, or you want to make it next week when you have all the correspondence?
Do it today, and
Okay.
I'll,
All right.
I'll
All right. Entertain a motion on if my math is correct, $152,050 or $50 to the outside agencies listed here on the verbal discussion, that commitment that we.
Yeah, motion to move with the full allocation of of
There you go.
those funds. Mr. Davis will communicate with these different agencies.
Have a motion on the floor. We have a second.
Second.
Well, you're on fire today. Yeah, motion on the floor is second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. I just want to say thanks to each one of those agencies. They are a very valuable part of the county. Anything else, Mr. Davis?
No, sir, I think that's it.
Anything from the public? If not, we are Mr. Barnhart.
Do we adjourn or?
We're gonna recess until 2:30
Reconvene at 2:30.
at 7:54 Marsh Street.
That sounds like a plan.
We are.